Year 20XX. Somewhere deep in the heart of the glowing state lights of Seoul is the Gangnam district, Yeoksamdong. Within this district is Building D. Hold the jokes, please. And on its top floor is the highest ranked team in the world of the online world of ROR, namely Division 1 or D1 for short. And within their pro gamer training room with plenty of monitors, top-of-the-line keyboards, RGB equipment, and Cheeto dust, the grown men have finally found their match within this world. The one player to rule them all, the infamous Dex, who they challenge 5 against 1. Oh wait, he's this kind of troll? I'm liking where this story is going already. One of their players thinks Dex is acting all egotistical, just sitting there waiting for them, and wants to show off in usual fashion why their team is ranked number 1 in the world. This is why I hate competitive sports, by the way. And they charge him blind to all the tactics the guy could pull to avoid the strike. Like, for example, that counterattack. The one that leaves their tank defeated in one hit. Their DPS doesn't seem to know what he's doing either, jumping straight into the fray like a sheep to the wolf den, and getting one hit comboed into oblivion, where he likely belongs. Aren't you guys supposed to be professionals? In the next few moments, Dex achieves a TPK, Total Party Kill, and wins the round instantly. The sweaty gamers can't believe their eyes as a buffoon just bamboozled them by being better than they were? When your ego inflates like the Hindenburg, expect it to go down in flames as such. Dex stands victorious midfield, and the entire room wonders just who the heck this guy is, his true identity behind the facade of the ROR account. His real name is Yoon Jae-young, and he's about 20. The list of aliases for this man stretch almost as far as the sanity for a scriptwriter, though his current nickname is the infamous Dex. And finally, after many years, he had achieved his goal in this game of becoming rank 1 over the other players. And just to mock the professionals who do this for a living, he leaves one final message. I'm quitting this game now. The players are enraged and almost frothing at the mouth after being humiliated. And after declaring his retirement as the player Dex, one day had passed and a truck belonging to the Arcadia Corporation was on its way with the package. The driver's talking gives us the nugget that it should be clear why the top player was quitting right now. The era of video games is over. Instead, the era of the virtual reality and dreamers had come to fruition, and the final unit was being delivered to its new host. Logging into this new world of Arcadia Online for the first time, Dex takes in the surroundings while falling from the sky. A brief explanation posits that each game has hidden elements, and these could range from simple little jokes hidden by their developers to cheats that change the narrative and everything you know about that game. Or they could be Easter eggs baked into the core code. Or in some cases, such as this one, they could be hidden puzzle pieces. One of said pieces is handed to a girl named Alice in the prelude to this world, with the assignment that everything this person leaves is for the next upcoming bard. You mean the one logging in for the first time right now? Probably, though we'll see how it goes. Apparently their version of virtual reality is a little different from ours though. In real life it's sometimes uncomfortable, sweaty headset connected to a computer. In their world, it's a machine that connects your brain to the internet, cyberpunk style, which allows for realistic experiences and the like to take place. I'd say they were lucky, but after seeing SAO, I'll hold my tongue. First arriving in the marketplace square with people looking for parties and selling items, Dex checks the interface for the first time. Very simple controls to aid with motor movement. As we all know, most gamers have no physique. But for him, the first quest is a breeze. The second is, yeah, not so much. Guess the devs outsmarted players a bit on this one. Now within the public library for days, 2 women chat about him being a rare specimen who actually reads the books instead of flipping through them. He even surprises the Glasses librarian by coming to ask if they have volume 2 of a book he'd been reading, because there were some rather interesting parts laid out in it. The History of Arcadia, Earliest Trace, Edeline. A book only given upon request, and one not many would ask for, catching the attention of Alice as well as Miss Glasses. As soon as he touches the book, the system does a lot of background stuff with Alice at its core, and we're notified that a special event has been detected. It marks Dex as a player to be monitored, and now for everyone's favorite little session, lore! Long ago, there was an adventurer who had hidden a legendary treasure of speculation within the Lake of Edeline. But although nobody had ever laid eyes on such a mysterious item, it was rumored to be the earliest trace of darkness in the world of Arcadia. Arriving at Lake Arun, Dex is notified by many flashy screens that a new quest around him has been generated to find these traces of darkness. Surveying the area, Dex finds nothing suspicious in the golden glow of approaching dusk around Lake Arun. This means that the suspicious item he's supposed to be hunting around the area can only really be hidden in one place, under the lake itself. Rolling up his sleeves with a grin, Dex takes a few steps back and leaps headfirst into the icy waters of Arun, in hopes he'll find something at the bottom or on the shoreline. And he does indeed find something very odd about this little lake in the beginner zone. It's way deeper than it has any right to be. But he's not the only one finding awry things in the world of Arcadia, for the devs have a problem to solve. They've been notified that no less than 4 days after opening the game in Korean servers, the main scenario has somehow been opened. According to their data, someone had found a quest item related to the main events, and it had triggered the rest to unlock, though they can't figure out for the life of them what said item is for some bizarre reason. And coming back up from his attempt, Dex has found nothing but a diving skill increase at the bottom of that lake. He somehow has to pay for the installment cost of his Dreamer unit every month, a staggering 920,000 won a month. As of writing, this chalks up to roughly $730. Oh, that's one expensive habit, my boy. Though as a pro gamer from Korea, he refuses to let this hidden quest made just for him go unfinished. Meanwhile, in the office of the Silikoff chairman, or chairwoman to be more precise, Jenica Paul, the 15-year-old girl, is asleep happily on her bed until an announcement comes through. Why is it always underage girls? This isn't cute, just creepy. Apparently, a user had found a clue to a hidden class in the Korean server, and Alice's analysis shows that it leads to the main quest in some way. But they aren't the ones who left behind a clue that big in the beginning town. It was a man they have yet to reveal the name of, though this little girl looks rather peeved. Oh joy, I'll get the tranquilizer. The hidden class, Bard of Anarchy, which has no concept of levels nor any form of attack capability whatsoever. Yet instead of the standard features present within the game, it has a special skill which causes Jenica to freak the fluff out and scream insults from the main building at the guy who made it. And now, with 10 days having passed, Dex finally has his hands on the Relic of Darkness he sought after from this stupid quest. Having found the item he was looking for, he's granted the Black Necklace as a reward for all the trouble spent. But despite the many warnings and a very ominous voice telling him to turn the world upside down, he uses the item, and after a permanent irreversible class change, a mission to kill beginner players is assigned. In the beginner's hunting ground in the west of Edeline, several players are busying themselves slime hunting, unawares of the danger lurking in the background, just waiting to end their fun. The mission wants him to kill these kinds of kids? Something definitely ain't right here. And from the flashbacks to an hour prior, this character can no longer be deleted. After way too many notifications, he changed into a hidden class and had no level to speak of, as the entire system was removed. The reason it was removed is unclear, but it strips any potential of growth for the character Dex. And without growth, there could be no real fun in the game. Not when everyone else surpasses him by leveling up their everything to an infinite degree. The only skill he's managed to find is one called plausibility, which is very unlike anything else. And from reading the description of this rather BS skill, the mission to kill all newbies had appeared, though he wonders rightly if this mission wouldn't affect the game management as well as the players themselves. Dex has no real choice in the matter at hand because it's what his mission has reserved for him. Oh dear, what kind of effects will this have on the poor children? Though before he could try killing anyone, a new foe appears. One that every kind of player in every kind of game hates the most out of all mechanics. A player killer steps into the field, and not just one, but a 3-man group. The idiot in the lead says that he owns the hunting ground, and they should have gotten his permission to do their business there before stepping in to enjoy themselves. That red ID means he's killed people to get where he is. But although this is nothing but a game to enjoy, he threatens to find their real-life location if they don't leave the hunting ground, knowing a rough area of where they live already. Dude figured that out just by accent and the word midterms? No thanks. They laugh at the notion that this is just a game, because yes indeed, this is how low-hanging fruit such as them have fun. Not only does a certain Dex agree with the notion of this being just a game, he also gets a cool slice effect across the words. Okay, not going to lie, the artist did justice on that one. Props if they're watching. Dex goes through the PKs like Truck Kun through protagonists, railroading them into an early grave with a skill that instantly kills. After disposing of them, he disposes of the kids too, all in the sake of increasing his mission quota, even though they thanked him and called him crazy. But who can say no to a smile like that, eh? Running from the infamous player killer in the middle of a forest, a newbie finds himself huffing and puffing, quickly losing footing over a route and having movement speed restricted from injury. Looking behind himself in the darkness while the fear trickles off his face in form of shivers, the glowing red eyes slowly approach from shadows of trees, a murdering psychopath ironclad in the darkness of his forest. Dex grins ear to ear while approaching, ignoring the man's question of why he's trying to kill them, and instead bringing the blade of his sword to bear. The afflicted threatens a report, yeah, real original pal, and screams that the game company won't leave him alone if he keeps acting like this in the start of the game. But Dex only replies with a question which sends cold, demeaning shivers down the guy's spine. Who do you think ordered me to do this in the first place? While the man ponders such a question under guise of his own, Dex splits him down the middle without a second thought, and yawns in frustration and tiredness. Sleepy at a time like this? Well, I'll tell you who ain't sleeping tonight. Arcadia's custom support line. See, the game has a penalty system for dying where you get restricted for 24 hours. The customer service rep tries explaining this to an irate gamer, but we all know what they can be like. And I thought Karens were scary. Ugh. Their officers are aflame with reports of a mysterious PK, one who back in game has killed over 1,000 people within the past 2 days alone. In doing so, Dex has not only racked up his kill counter in the interim, he's also made friendly relations with the slime race that he saved. Before Dex has time to enjoy himself with his new slime buddies, indistinct voices ring out from the nearby forest, and torches are alight in search for the infamous player killer deep in the woods. Through rays of plenty moonlight, Dex decides that his time is running short, and he'd best get a move on before they actually catch up with him. Wise decision on his parts, and sorry lads, you're a bit late. He's already spotted you and gone the other direction. They manage to see him in the low light streaming in from high above the trees, and start to give chase to their big scary killer of a protagonist. Running out of land to, well, run on, Dex stands over a huge cliff and comes face to face with the group of pursuers. The leader puts on his game face and spouts on about how pathetic this is, having him run to the edge of death on their first try. Being completely surrounded, there's no way he can escape vengeance. It's just a game, bro. Chill. Instead of giving up then and there, Dex does the typical cool thing by now and leans back over the cliff. On his way down, the evil protagonist is smiling up at the leader, mouthing the last words before he can hit a tree. Log out. And that clip brings together the internet over social media. People amused by it, some impressed by the control he has, the majority unhappy at those who would demean their deaths in vain. Now give me a break. Yeah, like him, the party leader. He posted something about making a group within the video comments, citing that over 700 cases have popped up on the forums about this guy alone. It leaves a few in awe and admiration of the skills to pull something like that off, but others argue that this player would be done in with just a 10-man group of them. Thus, an unlikely party is formed over the web to hunt this PK. The first meeting of the troll cleanup meeting starts. In Arcadia Online, users are capable of creating all kinds of scenarios, not just within game but across the internet that ripples eventually reach a place where they can be implemented into the game. This place is on the lap of the AI that controls the entirety of Arcadia's systems, Alice. She investigates the cause behind a large group forming in the central plaza, the troll cleanup meeting, and in mere seconds stretches out her hand to create an entire line of quests for the heroes going after this mass murderer. And in the Korean branch of Arcadia, all hell breaks loose as the main quest is generated. Nobody knows how the heck it had happened this early, but alarm bells ring from every corner of the room, ensuring they know just how much is at stake here. The scenario manager is way less than pleased at what's going on here, but has no choice but to buck up and accept the facts. The quest is related to the first act of the storyline. For it to trigger within 2 days is unheard of. But even when they begin to connect the dots about the beginner murderer, they can't fact check with headquarters as their authority has been denied. But why would they go through all that trouble just for a normal user? Answer? They wouldn't. And I don't think they even know it was done. And then he sees the number of players that got iced during Dex's little killing spree. 1,025. 1,025 users who were wrongly denied service back into the game. With Dex waking up on his comfortable bed at home, the man checks social media as you do, and there in front of him is a special event to hunt the PK, and he still has oh so many installments to pay on the Dreamer unit. Though a cute little slime wanders up to him once in the game world, it's followed by not far behind players who aim for the goal everyone does at this stage, using them for experience. They ask that he not kill it because it's the one they have been chasing all this time, and Dex obliges to this. With big pleading eyes, the slime looks up at him for help, and the infamous player killer isn't one to shy away from his relationship with the race used as fodder by so many others in this world. One of the guys steps forward to shove Dex, asking if he was deaf or what. Very cleverly, the protagonist uses this to his advantage by screaming that the PK was here and trying to get him. With the event having gone live, it reaches every ear in the area and draws a huge crowd, staring hungrily at the two men being framed. In this world, it's kill or be killed. I'll make sure to put pretty flowers on your grave. Dex and the single slime then leg it a good distance away while the other players pound unfair karma onto the framed guys. And after a few things related to gameplay and titles, we get to see what this plausibility status can really be used for, changing the world around him. Monsters, the thing in every world that players must defeat in order to level up, are a core crux of every RPG in existence today. And among all of these monsters, there exist some that are always associated with the idea of a tutorial or beginner zone, such as spiders, goblins, and most importantly, slimes. But what would happen if, shall we imagine, dear viewer, the beginner monsters begin to rise up against those that had hunted them? Oh, I know the answer to that, and you all should too by now. Why don't we enlighten them to the chaos editors? Yes. Oh, I need more coffee. We're back. Now that the evil is out of my system. Yes, what would happen is total and utter chaos as beginners are trumped by mere level 1 monsters that roam through their little home in the plains. with comments exploding and the world of Arcadia being turned on its head with an average of 10,000 10,000 new users a day, it is apt to call this a bloodbath. No matter how strong the adventurer seems to become, they are no match. This is the effect plausibility has had on the world of Arcadia, destroying anything resembling balance. Then there's the group who had previously attacked Dex in the forest, the ones who had forced him off the cliff. They were now surrounded by a cohort of bloodthirsty slimes looking for vengeance against the endlessly encroaching humanity. From one hit, the newbie has died, and the now angry slimes are taking out their unbridled rage on the rest of his party by mashing their virtual bodies into dust and then some. All the while, these kills are an automated generator for Dex's plausibility, and after only 2 hours, the man has just under 4,000 points to his name, triple what he had before, and the Korean director is unhappy. The employees facing him are utterly terrified of losing their jobs, and explain that the slimes have abnormally strengthened to an absurd degree. No answers from HQ on the matter thus far, and everything is still ongoing at the time. Oh, and these slimes have gotten not double or triple, but at maximum 10 times stronger. Oh, oof. Yeah, that plausibility is no darn joke, isn't it? The director is then informed that basic users have 100 HP, which is even worse, since that means it's always a one-hit kill situation. I'm surprised they haven't just, reset the fluffing servers already. They should take whatever Dex has away. Instead, the beginning area begins to look a little more empty as Dex's plausibility reaches 9,600. Rumors of this place have started to spread all over the game world, of just how dangerous it is to go hunting here as a beginner. Instead, a lot more higher level players are climbing down the ranks to hunt the upgraded slimes. But right on cue, the slow droll of incoming plausibility reaches 10,000, and the system rewards him with an intermediate chest. Oh dear god, no. His reward isn't just a silly little one-use item here. It's a familiar? A giant being that asks who dares to summon it from the beyond, white skin and long closed wings that curl around its bulky frame, and the power between its hands. What he had accidentally called into being was the monarch of chaos, Satan himself. Though a complete summon would be way too much for the system to handle right now, it can at the very least reward him with a much younger version of the Dark King. Having to make do with what he has, Satan is not pleased by his appearance as a, little guy. When the small demon realizes he's been automatically bound as a familiar, he freaks. How could someone like him be forced into contract without consent, much less by a request? He's not just some low-ranking imp boy who has no fame. Poor guy is going through a crisis in his old age, just like the real world, I guess. Some things never change. The devil then notices Dex's unforeseen power, and seems to want it for himself. Using this kind of energy, he may just be able to obliterate the angel standing between him and victory. And then Alice informs him that he can indeed spend points to strengthen his familiar, but she also advises him to be wary at this time. As a demon, things like temptation and trickery are on the grand table of things. Dex considers that he has the one status in the game that even the King of Hell wants, something said to be able to turn the law of this world on its head, the most special element in the game. And what would he get in return for the biggest trait in his life? The cape of a demonic general? Nah, that has level requirements and stuff. Though it's an enticing offer, he has no concept of level at all, unlike another Manhwa I can name. But suddenly, Dex has a bright and very evil light bulb come a light above his big head. His familiar may be able to strengthen monsters as well. Oh, this will be fun. Down in the forested regions, men are out hunting all the poor slimes thinking this whole scenario is nothing more than a bug. If only. Slimes give a lot of XP for lowly starter monsters with basic attack patterns, but while they keep walking through the forest, a new threat spawns around the area as Lucifer keeps his word. Dex's little demon king has created a terrifying opponent for any adventurer to face. The slimes gather, seemingly attacking a level 15 party that just so happens to be in the way of their real goal. The people yell and shield themselves only to realize what's truly happening. Before their very eyes, the slimes are darting past them and seemingly ignoring the adventurers, crawling deeper into the woods to coalesce and form one giant, thick blob of vicious hatred and vitriol towards those that had hunted them for so long. All of them witnessed firsthand the birth of the Slime Queen, a level 100 monster that spawned in the starting area with the quest popping up out of nowhere on everybody's screens to direct them on what the heck is going on. The once peace-loving slimes are basically done with their fluffery and have banded together in one giant sacrifice, ready to annihilate these pathetic mortals. With the roar and flail of her gigantic arms alone, the Slime Queen uproots a great deal of the beginner force in her rage against the invading species. People are scurrying away in fear from the massive molasses like green poop, one red-haired man getting a good long look at the creature of his demise from a great distance. Got a nice figure though, I'd smash. With a hammer of course. Okay, oh look, main character. Asking little Lucy what the heck he did there, the only reply is that he followed orders and strengthened the slimes. I don't think he meant make an unbeatable monster in the beginner zone, you dimwit. She's feisty enough that the blast of air forces the two back, Lucy remarking that just a tad more power and she may make a good fit for the demon army. And to think that all he did was stir up the rage embedded within the slimes as is. He'd also tested a little of the possibility here and forced the evolution of the species to the next level, causing the queen to spawn. While down in the forest once more, the remaining adventurers form a line of defense to hopefully slow down the flood of slime headed their way. But the battle is so lopsided that it sparks the start of the real main questline. One man yells that the server should be taken down right away, another stating that no member of the Korean staff had created such a monster. Thus, this must be the fault of headquarters. After a bit of musing on what could have caused this, the director brings up a certain theory that this could all be because of a single anomalous player. Already starting off strong, good stuff. This guy is brighter than first glance may let on. The room goes into an uproar on the suggestion, but things are starting to click now. Everything makes sense when the quest logs are looked at. But on the downside, if this truly was caused by a single user, then Arcadia cannot interfere in any way. Why? Because of their company policy, even if that means there's a huge detriment in doing as such. Back into the game, we zoom through the crowds and settle on an old soldier fighting off a ton of slimes, trying to get further along in the beginner town. One appears behind him, but a good-hearted player puts himself in the way with a giant shield to save the guy, and they both begin to retreat. Security Trooper Bayern thanks this player for saving him from the wrath of those monsters, and in return, the old man tells a little story. Something, courageous, righteous warrior helping people. Things the old man's grandfather would tell him as stories. Speaking of stories, why don't we learn a bit more about what's been going on? Within the 7 days given for the raid, the first 3 were an almost complete loss. But Korean players don't just back down. No. Instead, the high-level accounts within rumors had actually come back to this area to lend aid to the newbie town. Well, ain't that cute? Meanwhile, standing atop a giant cliff overlooking the battlegrounds, Dex is staring at his players killed reading. Almost 33,000 of them, most from the hard work of the slimes. The demon monarch of chaos, Satan, pats his head in congratulations. To think that the king of hell would be doing such a thing for a human is just, morally corrupt, shall we imply. But with this much plausibility, he could turn the tides even further in his favor if used carefully. Satan points out that if nothing is done, then soon the humans would win, not poggers. So Dex now has the option to choose between helping either side through the campaign. And what does he choose? Why, the beautiful slime queen and her minions, of course. With those looks, I would too. I mean what? You heard nothing, moving on. Within the 7 days given for the slime raid, a time both long and short, players stand tall and valiant, driving back the queen and her cohort. The ranks become quiet, silence falls outside the wary gates, and all is at peace for a time. Now all they have to do is wait. But as the 10-minute mark comes, the sky turns deep crimson and violent red. The queen has had enough. But look up there. Who's standing on her head? It doesn't matter what colors fly high above in the gloomy dark, but what does matter heavily is how you protect your heart. Well, now with poetry complete and my soul satisfied, let's get to the action. The slime queen isn't waiting around for them to obtain victory. Reaching over the walls of this town, she slams her gooey fist on the ground, spawning thousands of her army into being. Many players drop their weapons cold and scream for their lives, running away in a really smart move to try and save what little life they have left. One soldier yells to attack with whatever is on hand. This is just a game, why are they so scared? Oh. Maybe the giant hand reaching for him is the answer. Take me away, milady. Once he's dead, the highest level there takes command and has everyone run like headless chickens to distract the queen. They only need 5 more minutes. They're putting the rep of all Korean players on the line here. Everyone raises their weapons and shouts a unifying battle cry, screeching victory while doing as intended. Through the power of the human wave strategy, they can aggro the queen around enough to distract her and prevent the movement of the slime army. With only 10 seconds left on the counter, the queen tries everything to get these pesky humans out of her way. One of the top players attacks her through the fiery nature of his blade, bouncing off a shield while the counter ticks down. 3, 2, 1. Segue to the Arcadia CEO's office, the CEO confirms her understanding that the director before her wants authority to stop the slime raid. She straight up won't allow this. Bad business practice, lady, because they are not the gods of Arcadia. Yes, you freaking are. That's the point of being a game developer. And back in Arcadia, the man from before rests aside the Guardian Crystal, protecting the beginner town, and sighs with a smile. It's all over. Huh? Yeah, it is. As the game alerts the entire server that they failed to protect the town, right behind him, without provocation, stands Dex, a knife in hand where the crystal used to be. A group of players run into the area and watch helplessly as their crystal falls broken to the floor, shattered beyond repair and any hope they may have had gone alongside it. They lament and rage at the one who had crushed their city in one move, screaming agony at the world's greatest troll standing before them. But Dex rightly informs them via an almost terrifying bit of dialogue. Really? This isn't the time to do that though. With the Guardian Crystal destroyed, the Slime Queen explodes, taking over the beginner town without a second thought. One naive player thinks that even in a raid, there would be no way slimes would spawn inside a village. Bruh, did you not read the notification? There isn't a beginner village anymore. Only Slime Queen. And those giant purple slimes, of course. The ones about to gobble up players, and spawning in the village center is... I'll just let your eyes do the work. With this, the beginner village has flipped sides to the slimes territory, and the entire place transformed into a hunting ground where the recommended level for players is 80. Oh, well then, I guess you're all done for. Arcadia gonna kiss that sweet revenue goodbye. Speaking of goodbye, no, don't worry, not that time yet. Outside the game world, a popular gaming news broadcast is making the rounds. As expected, the press and players alike are chewing the company to bits over this. Eventually, the sound of the reporter's voice waking Dex from his beauty sleep. People in video comments also aren't so stupid as in real life. Some have been putting 2 and 2 together, connecting the mysterious PK to the Slime Village incident. A lot of people had lost equipment, NPC quests, class advancements, and likely a boatload more from this incident. All of which is attributed to the CEO's earlier decision. Again, I can't see that working out well for them. First, the Bard of Anarchy class change, then the Monarch of Chaos as a familiar as a freaking reward, and lastly, that creepy voice. It all seems a bit too suspicious to just be nothing, but hey, who cares? That'll just sort itself out, right? And if he has done something irreparably wrong, the game company would just remove him as a problem, right? Given that Alice, the AI who runs the procedural generation quest system for the entire game, seems to be on your crazy friend's side as a love interest or something, I don't think so. But for now, he just focused on the present. School, life, friends. And meeting the exact dude who gave him that class. Holy, okay, things are about to get interesting real quick. The CEO seems to agree because of just how they had laid the game out and what they did with the Alice system mentioned prior. Special cases were bound to crop up, but at least the press are keeping them in the spotlight and drawing attention to the game. She'd really like to see what the user who did this looks like. And Glasses Guy, in the class now, feigns ignorance on the part of being the perpetrator, despite the look of cold, smug confirmation they got earlier. But this guy is already a lot sharper than meets the eye and has eyes where nobody else does. Credited by the information only he has at this point. Starting the lectures for his college class on computer engineering, Dex and Glasses are quite confused to hear that the teacher has a special announcement. On behalf of the faculty, he brings up the topic of the revolutionary technology that is virtual reality, which was just released. And in specifics, Arcadia. One cannot catch up with the world on only computer engineering skills anymore. Only by changing the course material would they stand a chance in their field. All existing technology was just rendered obsolete. Thus, the course would be jumping names from computer engineering to virtual reality engineering. Ooh, so the world has just had a breakthrough? Interesting. Dex has had lunch with the Glasses Guy from before, and they stick together for a while. Him talking about Arcadia like a crazed fanatic. Until the sensitive topic comes out of Dex playing the new game. Uh-oh. He makes the natural conversation shift that he's too poor to play it. God, do I feel that. And lights the guy's passion to save his own skin. Smart move. Later that day, when him and Tan are having a discussion, when out of nowhere, who else would come up to give him a snuggle than the Slime Queen? Damn it, he's lucky. Virtual freaking girlfriend, and now he's getting crushed by slime. I feel much better now. Cheers, Karma. Once the Slime Queen has expressed her gratitude and made Dex the eternal savior of the race, she rewards him with the slime's crown and a slew of attributes to go with its majesty. Part of the reward is a huge chunk of plausibility, but the happy days are interrupted by Tan, who asks when they can leave the area. The color purple now makes him feel a bit sick. Oof. As they leave, the queen waves them off with her subjects, making many happy slime noises. Dex moves out with a tiny demon at his side to the next town over, one where another interesting angelic being seems to be waiting. Within mere days, or possibly hours, the Korean player base has managed to settle on a new default starting place for all newbies to flood to. The Mikhail Barony about 10 kilometers north of the slime territory. A lot of monsters and fairly low resistance. Perfection. Dex arrives, stopped by a guard for his name, and it seems that rumors of the destruction spread among the NPCs as well. Gotta be careful here. The guard tells him to wait outside after some pleasantries as paperwork needs to be done. But the whole time, Tan is keeping eyes out for something in the area. Apparently, this place feels familiar, but it's probably nothing. But why does the master keep calling the little guy Tan, you may ask? Great question. Easy answer. Because the name Satan would bring way too much attention to them. Dex has to maintain a low profile if he wants any chance at surviving on his own. But another more important question also arises. What does he plan with the remaining plausibility? The power even the devil himself wants? Currently, nothing. He has a great amount of it saved for a rainy day, which is a clever move. Never quite know when you'll need the boost of a lifetime. And there's also the fact that he doesn't know the true worth of it. There could be more value than anything he'd get from his familiar. Walking into the barony for the first time, Dex goes through the marketplace filled with miners and players alike, all selling items among other things like every RPG. For now, their plan is to wander around and find a few quests to undertake. And would you look at that, there's one right now. What's the quest, you may ask? Well, the miners seem to be having a problem getting the required iron ore for their blacksmith buddies. They're already sleeping and resting less, now getting worried that the Lord would punish them for being late with the output. Proposing the solution to the problem of 2 miners, Dex is presented with a system quest to deal with the problems. In doing so, he'd earn rewards based on what was mined, allowing infinite repeatability for cash. Slow, but fairly reliable. Tan wants to be on their way already, as there ain't no point in doing something pathetic as this when you have such power as plausibility. Instead, Dex tells his little familiar to take a good look around at their environment. What does he see? Plenty of blacksmiths, both player and NPC, but much more of the former. In fact, there's quite the influx of players within the barony. Instead of doing the minor quests that don't yield much reward, if any at all, people much prefer to take the blacksmithing job because it pays more. With an increase in demand but not supply, what would happen to the economy? Oh, I like that evil grin. For starters, they're gonna go out into the mines and earn some money first. Meanwhile, within the Great Baron's office, the beautiful Mikhail sits uncomfortably at her desk, reading over the monthly report of her territory. A huge price hike for iron ore has occurred, and with the current rate, there wouldn't be anything left for the village smithies. Things are going to get really bad if this continues. Somewhere deep within the holy bowels of Mount Fien, Dex and Tan get to work in earnest. The tiny monarch asks what the heck his master is trying to achieve by doing something like this with his plausibility, and the answer will come in time. For the moment, Tan just gives the required item to his master, and the man gets on with his mining duties. Seems like somebody has a plan. Within the barony, many adventurers are selling pre-made items, repairing equipment, or getting better with their smithy skills. One woman stands out from this group as she's trying to buy 20 iron ore for the miner's quest, but another guy comes up to tell her that it ain't worth it to do that one. 2 blacksmiths listen in on their conversation, starting to chat about how the baroness better do something soon, because if she doesn't, her territory is doomed beyond repair. In essence, they are ruining the game world for their own marketable gain. This is mostly Dex's fault, as the beginner village was preventing such a thing, leaving this as the only viable option to continue for most. 2 players talk about the rising prices and how many people have taken on crafting work. Thanks to the lack of this material, it skyrocketed in value, moving from 10 bronze pieces to 17 in such a short span of time. Guess Mikhail has her work cut out for her. Users, as a result, are starting to take profit losses and are quite unhappy with the current situation. Glasses boy, who's come up beside them, asks why you can't just mine them yourself. They laugh and very briefly explain the difficulties of doing such a thing, making it not worth their time in the long run. Mining for personal use isn't profitable, not unless you're the protagonist with a special kind of BS tool. If Dex is aiming to break the entire game, destabilizing things would be a great start. As his skills rise through the ranks and then some, he keeps getting lucky ores alongside the iron. Tan comes up to him as soon as the man is done mining and presents a new deal for all of the plausibility, which is almost instantly rejected, shutting the Grim Reaper up with facts and logic. If only. The poor demon gets a lecture over what would happen if he took such a deal and got the item. Wondering why Tan had disappeared for such a long time though, Dex becomes curious at what he's looking for within this mine of seemingly endless tunnels. The little runt refuses to tell him at the moment, instead opting to wait until the time was ripe. But for now, his master's plan is superb. Gather all this ore every day, do those repeatable quests a lot, and milk the system, finally piquing the interest of the Baron. Speaking of whom, the lady herself is lording over the papers, pun intended, on her desk with other members of the administration. Going through the motions, they are interrupted by a huge deposit of iron ore at their front door, and as Dex predicted, she goes out to find the player responsible for all this sudden wealth. Ka-ching! Time to make some big money. Being invited to the mansion, the lady offers her man some tea made with the herbs of their great mountain amidst a well-decorated room of antique and artisan perfection. She's supremely confused when Dex says it had only taken him 3 days to do all that mining. A special quest presents itself as he expected. It seems we have a rudimentary understanding of how Alice functions now. He accepts the quest to help get adventurers into the mining business, and after some hard research on something within the real world, we're jumped in perspective to a high school which is just starting or ending classes. A guy asks his young friend if they could play Arcadia together later that day, but the boy has basically quit. Why? Because he was in the beginner town when everything was, well, you know the story. He had also been killed by Dex before and struggled heavily in getting out of the Slime's domain, but although he had managed to make it to the Mikhail domain, he was still stuck in the job of a merchant with a whole slew of weird skills and no combat ability of any kind. But then the guy shows him a video posted to MooTube about the wonders of the Arcadian mining industry and how much you could earn from it. The mad lad has done it again, created a channel of utter BS. Gotta love the dedication here. Dex starts the video by showing off how much money he's earned from the so-called menial labor that many players look down upon. To start with, they'd be at F rank on the mining skill, earning an average of 20 ores an hour. But once you start going up in the ranks, you'd eventually be earning 1 diamond per day. And from a single video posted online, the amount of individuals interested in the mining sector went through the ceiling. Gonna have the Baron replace that roof. Speaking of the devilishly cute woman, she's gobsmacked at just what the fluff Dex had managed to accomplish in one day, where she couldn't do anything in her own domain for weeks. Protagonist power, baby. And generally intelligent, even if devious, use of mankind's greatest and scariest tool, the internet. All he did was the shady tactic of stimulating the masses in the right ways. It's only money, he says. And if not money, then anything that earns them money. Bit eerie on how true this is. She still doesn't know how the fluffy dun did do such a devious little deed on this dandy day. But in his own twisted way, he continues bringing her up to speed on modern day business jargon. This can't be good for the player base, but that's exactly what we want here. Chaos, chaos, and even more chaos. And no hedgehogs in sight, thankfully. In return for his help, the man only wants one thing: her to sign the business contract laid out. A perfect segue into lore land later, and we're being told about a tale as old as time in the land of Arcadia. The war between angels and demons a few thousand years back, where good old Satan versus hot angel lady comes to the hot battle across the skies of the continent. Ethereal golden flames scorch that of the Chaos Monarch's body. The weak little angel had brought a specialty toy with her to end this fight in their favor, Muspelheim, a divine weapon treasured by the angelic people. That woman is apparently Archangel Michael, and she's come to destroy him once and for all. This wakes Tan up from his dreaming almost immediately. He wakes up in good time and asks his master what was inside that business scroll he'd given Mikhail earlier. And Dex responds with an old businessman saying, a very hated practice in our world: "You may enter as you please, but not leave as you please." That doesn't sound very good. It's like gym contracts, I guess. Mining isn't that easy to do, apparently. Thank you, Mr. Lightbulb. But they could force people into it with this tactic by selling pricey entrance tickets. Those who can't pay would be put on a scheme to hand back the cash at a later date. But if that number is high as, shall we say, 1 gold, then they would be forced into the hard labor and kept there under contract of dues. This is so smart that he actually scares the devil, to the point literal Satan admits Dex is scarier than any demon. But for now, there's a place Tan hopes his master would go with him. He won't incur any pain or death from it, promises the chibi ruler of death. Standing before a great magical door, Tan eventually has to explain just what his kind of special power, plausibility, can do. To boil it into one horrifying conclusion: anything. It is the closest power to that of an administrator without working at Arcadia. So, let me get this straight. A hacker somehow managed to get past every single defense this world has to implant a class with pseudo-admin powers? One that keeps breaking all established systems? Heck to the yes. And from this, Dex finally resolves himself to break through the seal on this darn door. He stretches out a hand with the intent of pushing it ajar. And what the fluff do you know? It actually does something. Guess the devil is in on the details, huh? Oh, come on, that was good. Anyhow, the seal massively reacts to this new stimuli from plausibility, and while Dex winces at the cost to break the game to this degree, 15,000 of his most precious resource, where else would he use it? While Dex is popping the seal on this bad boy like kids on Christmas morning, we get a bit more lore behind the workings of Arcadia. The Holy Demonic Great War was an event which left the world itself scarred beyond full repair, the continent being dyed with death, as they put it. If it were not for the World Tree, none of the races would have survived. And now, back to our scheduled programming. Watching the devs of Arcadia absolutely themselves in horror at the message on their screens. An error has occurred for a mystical grade quest, the system marking this as an emergency situation beyond its capabilities to handle. Not like the devs will be of much use, if I'm right. Shifting their attention to the matter at hand and away from the staff's tired and irritable groans, he explains that the ores in Mount Fian are supposed to act as a seal for the entrance to the high heavens. The mountain itself is the place angels first landed on Arcadia, and as such it has been marked as hidden holy land. Okay, continue? This may go somewhere full of good action. The director asks for the name of this corrupted quest, which makes the poor scenario lead stutter out his words and avoid the question for as long as possible. Oh, come on, spit it out, man. The second holy demonic great war. Oh dear god! Dex is gonna snap the universe in half! The poor director's face! But for the more interesting part, we cut back to the man himself entering this hidden holy land with malicious intent behind every footstep. With this familiar being the underworld's ruler, I doubt angels would take much of a liking to the Bard of Anarchy encroaching on their terrain. And what lays before him is a big stone box, one that Tan assures him has some really amazing loot inside. You'd better believe it does. The divine beings here are taking notice of him as well and do several things to the environment, one of being to boost his HP and mana recovery. Cool, thanks bro. Still gonna plunder all your stuff. The quests are really getting fluffed up around now too, telling him that he'd need to find things like a person who knows how to read the ancient runic language on this crate. Why the heck would he do that? And why would he even report this to the Baron in the first place when such good loot may be inside, ripe for the taking? There's no way in heck Mikhail can give him something of more value than the trinkets within this box. And since he's already cracked the door behind him, Dex is for all intents and purposes a grave robber already. Finally making up his mind once more, the man and his familiar start trying whatever they can to open the crate. As Dex holds the Heaven's Medallion in his hand, holy energy surges out uncontrollably, and with such ferocity that Tan is forced to shield himself or die trying. Some kind of holy power, begins to try its luck by flowing into Dex's veins, but the Bard of Anarchy halts this class change of Holy Prophet in its tracks. Yet a fatal contradiction occurs within the system, as his job title does not fall under Holy. While Tan is recovering from the blast that almost took his life, ironic for Satan, he asks his master what in the heck just happened. The item was disabled because of this error, and it would have to be reworked if the problem was to be solved. Meanwhile, in the barony, a young adventurer stopped from entering the mines by a guard who asks where his pass is. You have to pay to mine here? Yes you do, my boy, because someone was an evil genius and taught the NPCs how to strategize. The video on MooTube never mentioned anything about having to buy a pass in order to get in. Things must have changed rapidly since then. Yeah, nice shooting, Sherlock, hit the bullseye. The guard then asks if he doesn't have the money to pay for the pass, and surprise, surprise, no he don't. 30 gold is way over the budget of a middle schooler. There's a system in place for people like him though, a sort of buy now, pay later arrangement. Oh, heck to the nope, this is what they meant by can't leave as you please. Nobody's going to build enough money to pay for that. Not too long ago, the mountain mining site had a chronic lack of manpower which stunted the economy of the McHale barony. But now it's a site buzzing with activity as adventurer slaves are forced into mining from the snake oil scheme of the NPCs. They have to pay back their mining passes somehow, and the only way is to keep on trucking. And in the distance of the mountain caves, Dex is clear the Baroness' concern quest as people just keep digging in vain. How much do you think they're hauling? 16 tons maybe? Another day older and deeper in debt. Anyhow, while Tan stares at the devilish man, Dex puts even more fear into him by what he does next. Start destroying the holy place. He'd prefer this stays a secret so no evidence must be left. While Tan is having an existential crisis on who the real devil is, Dex heads back to McHale's mansion to clear this quest of his and reap the rewards of his hard setup work. Thanks to him, she wouldn't need to worry about the iron situation for the next whole year. Anyone want to guess at how many people they fooled? It's over 9,000! Dex is really hoping he didn't make a mistake here by introducing medieval times to shady tactics. But then again, he is at the top of the food chain, so what could the harm be to him? All's fair within intelligence and war. But while Dex is presented with an enticing offer, lurking in the background of the server is its creator who Alice contacts about the medallion, the essential god of this world, Jack. The Bard of Anarchy, a setting even the creator wasn't aware of, and that same person has now acquired both the power of chaos and the medallion of heaven itself, causing such a conflict that Alice couldn't deal with it herself. Currently, it was impossible to give Dex the job of Holy Prophet, thus she needs a decision from the boss to act on his authority. The advancement can wait for the time being, for now he had found the item on his own. They should reward him, and doing so would involve stripping the code and a complete rewrite of the item's traits. He's going to balance out the disruption by using the one, the only, the beauty that is Angel Michael. First a slime girlfriend, now an angel? Dex really be hitting it off with the ladies. Meanwhile, after careful consideration of the terms in front of him, Dex is smartly going to reject the Baroness' request to work together. She's taken aback by the answer she'd been fearing. Maybe it was the terms he didn't like? Nah, not like that hot stuff. He's got places to be, people to destroy. Dex is still traveling the continent. Only once he's done would he even consider something like this. But she does give him another maybe useful gift, a letter of recommendation that would help protect him anywhere within this kingdom. We also learned that the state of the royal family is in disrepair as the prince is too young for the throne and the king is too old to lead. Thus, people are being power hogs, the worst of which is Duke Burhan. This seems like such a pain in the arse for Dex who only wants to work from the shadows. Let's see. You have Satan himself as your familiar. You destroyed the holiest place of the angels and stole a medallion that corrupted and got the attention of the quintessential god. And you tricked so many people into being slaves that the damage is basically irreparable. The game seems to agree with me as the Baron asks him to help, and he gets a mission, not a quest, to aid the Maroon Kingdom, one without a reject button. Later as he's walking away, McHale whispers to herself that anyone would know after meeting him just once. Dex is the key to changing the world. You don't say. Her thoughts are reasonable though. His actions have started to change the world down here, from destroying the beginner town and getting a slime girlfriend, don't ask, to destroying any free time the development team may have had and likely nosediving their profits. Even if the events seem as far-fetched from modern logic as can be, this is the world that was made for its users. Who in their right mind was going to punish him for playing the game as it was meant to be played? And more importantly, the medallion's effects have been adjusted, revoking the system error. With a burst of holy light that scorches the hairs on Tan, a guardian angel would be summoned to protect Dex at all times, and who else but the highest order herself. Now, you would expect that upon meeting each other again, the king of hell and the strongest angel of them all would immediately get into a fight and ruin the city. Normally that would be the case here. However, neither of them appear to be very big nor very powerful right now. So instead, it's the classic shoulder-to-shoulder battle of good and bad. Only this time they won't shut up. Tan does mention that he'd only ran away in the last war because Michael had the audacity to bring a divine weapon to the fight. Audacity? You little runt? Ever heard the old saying of all being fair in love and war? Anyway, Michael approaches Dex with a smile and obvious question if he's the one who made the deal with Tan. Good guess, but actually no. He was forced into the contract without his knowledge nor consent. While the chibi demon rages in the background, Michael pulls the fair maiden face and says it could be a dangerous power in the wrong hands. Believe me, you ain't getting any worse palms for the world to be in than this guy. She'd be his guardian angel and guide him towards the correct path. Oh please, he's even more a demon than his familiar, and Tan actually acknowledges this in front of her. If you were to consider all the things he's done with the class that is supposed to bring chaos to the world, he'd be evil 300. To grant her wish would just be going against everything he stands for as a troll. I can't keep a straight face. She brazenly replies that all humans her great creator had made have kindness deep-seated within their hearts, and she'd bring it out in Dex with some time. From now on, she'd try her best to do as such. Yeah, good luck with that, because you're gonna freaking need it with this monster from the modern era. Tan states he'll turn a blind eye to his archenemy traveling with them, but all that plausibility belongs to him already. No, it don't. Not until you earn it, you little moron. But Dex pipes up after the two noisy summons pipe down, that his plausibility didn't make its way into Tan's hands for free. If he gives her anything at all, what would she be willing to give him? That's right, this is give and take. The Bard is an incredible power for what it does, but the drawback is that glaring lack of combat ability, the absence of a leveling system. Not being able to defend oneself is a big downside to this that can't be overlooked. Suddenly, Elle, as she's requested to be named, has the idea of giving Dex the ability of Divine Descent. He can use plausibility to borrow powers from the heavens and boost his strength to unheard of heights. This attracts a little bit of target practice to the area, and Dex decides no time like the present to test this new skill. Deep in the bowels of a familiar Mount Fion, the unluckiest guy in the entirety of Arcadia is mining away like there's no tomorrow. Poor kid got duped just like everybody else, and he's starting to pay for it with tears and bruises in the game. He doesn't want to do this, he just wants to run away. Okay, then sell the Arcadia machine and just watch MooTube or something. Ain't no point in being in a depressing virtual reality. But while he does think this, two Saitama-faced men are bringing a loony back in from outside. He tried to run away. Bad idea. Run and you'll break your contract with Baroness Mikhail, be labeled a deserter, and be outcast from every city in the game. Surprise mechanics. The modern games industry would be proud of. But we're not. Quitting his whining and getting back to work teary-eyed, poor kid. The boy gets a bunch of side stuff and notifications, but one in particular stands out. The longest burning flame has shown an interest in him. He has a great relationship with Iron. Yeah, I'll bet. Which also leaves a good impression on this almighty spirit it probably is. He then gets yelled at by one a-hole of an NPC supervisor to quit yapping and get back to work. Meanwhile, somewhere in the far distance, Dex has summoned the spirit of the Knight of Honor, Farhan, one whose strength earned him the title among the holy angels of his kind, and a different name among demonic people of Tan's kind, Devilbreaker. Oh, that sounds like a sick band name. I'm keeping that. Yes, I am. He descends into Dex's body and courses his skin with glowing armor, attaching a sword and shield to the bard's hands. You'll be able to use all the skills of this legendary warrior for a time. While Dex confirms the obvious at what we've been told, the orcs that had come to challenge him step back in fear of their new opponent. Seconds ago, this guy was weak and timid, but now? It's as if he took those vitamin gummies. I want to use another term, but James is forever lurking. Help. Anyhow, ignoring the breathing down my neck, the field boss can clearly tell something is up with this human. Dex has taken a shorter route to get to the kingdom, one that went through an area with an infamous mini-boss he is now staring down. The boss tries to get a good swing in, but lands square on his shield, activating the power of unwavering will, which doesn't even take a dent from this weak sauce. With the blade bouncing off, Dex decides it is now his turn and he rolls for damage. D20. Goodbye, field boss. Spouting a giant column of flame from his sword, Dex has it come crashing down with burning glory on his foe like a lightning strike, decimating the area and leaving nothing left of the orcs. Plausibility is consumed, Elle is now convinced to stay at his side forever, and Dex is disappointed because he wanted a half-decent fight. Well, you wanted power, didn't you? Got your wish. With both summons now knocked out and asleep for the night, Dex stares at a skills panel for a bit after looking up at the moon. Wonder if this guy sleeps in the VR machine. He's glad he'd used that skill early to find out the pros and cons. The former would be obvious, reducing that power gap between him and any potential foe. It gets him around the bottleneck he would have had buying items from Tan. The drawback would be that it consumes plausibility. Then there's the glaring hole in his new ability, which is skill proficiency with any of the deities that may fall upon his body during battle. Elle is surprised that he describes the pros and cons of such a powerful skill as fun. I mean, these things are cosmic variables that could change the tide of a war. Angels are said to be light sleepers. Oh, very funny. Dex may not realize this part, but the person he had summoned down from heaven is a holy warrior. As if that weren't obvious enough already. Her point is that if it only cost that little, under 1000 plausibility to summon someone as strong as him onto this land again, who knows just what kind of extreme power he could wield over his foes. True. Meanwhile, a bit of exposition on the Maroon Kingdom gives us a glimpse into the Great Merchants Guild. One of the NPC traders, a pompous twat who seems to like food a bit much, is pulling a Karen that the manager isn't around since he brought oh so many goods here. The branch manager apologizes, but their master is currently busy high up in the building with an important meeting. The man himself, Duke Burhan, is attempting to make relations with them and create powerful ties to the guild to further his own profits. The master, Choi, is very intelligently aware of the power and connections this man has. His life is one as the son of the real-life GM group's chairman, and his father is a real piece of work when it comes to teaching his son anything. The real group only plays the game for the sake of earning money, likely Choi's idea. Reality and virtual reality are now clashing. Will the NPC be able to seduce the real world with promises he'll likely won't keep? I mean, if that face is anything to go by, who the heck would trust him in any regard? What the Duke had come for was not just a group to manipulate, but one with the strong bond of the people within it. It just so happens the GM guild ain't been growing as rapidly as they'd like, making perfect puppets for a shady master plan. Two kingdoms, Maroon and Parkit, would be going to war soon enough. Duke Burhan wants the GM group to be the forefront of trade for the Maroon kingdom, and to start, they would buy as much grain as they could. And in another part of the city, Dex has reached his destination, the person Mikhail had sent him all this way out to meet. Handing his letter to the man before him, Dex explains that he doesn't know the content of it but was told it'd offer protection. There would also be several pieces of information. And he's torn it apart. Oh, okay, cool. Good start to the relationship. But the guy wants to ask Dex directly why he was sent. The hero picks up on this and says that's for the higher-ups to think of, now isn't it? The man laughs and states it was obvious why she'd sent him. Dex must have proved a valuable asset and been instrumental in helping her in some way. To see that he's not surprised at the mention of war either, the Baroness must have let something slip. He confirms what he knows with the man and comes up with an easy way and a hard way. The easy way is as simple as expiring the Duke's warranty on life. Usually when the head of an organization goes, everything else crumbles around it as orders are no longer given from the brain of the operations. The guy's laugh booms like the bear his body seems to be based on, claiming Mikhail certainly has an interesting eye for people like this. Yeah, I'll say. The ranks protecting this Duke are the elite of the elite, proving to be the best bodyguard detail money could possibly buy in the kingdom of the rich. Oh, is that so? Immovable object, meet unstoppable protagonist. The guy thinks Dex is a little weak for this. He only shows his level 1, but his confidence is through the ceiling. After seeing this, the man asks him to follow out to some kind of training ground. Beatdown montage, here we go. Editors, please have the music at the ready. If Dex really has all the bite to go with the bark, he better prove it in combat here and now. The man Dex is now facing is the Shield of the Kingdom, a sword master of the Imperial family at rank 3, Count Brocken. Using the flashy ability he'd pulled from L, Wandering Knight Kophelis descends upon his earthly body and changes his aura to the point the Count is speechless. No more than a few seconds ado did Dex feel like he'd never held a sword in his entire life. Now it feels like he's always had one stashed somewhere somehow. He'll end this fight in 5 minutes flat, he claims, as it uses too many points. Activating many abilities and not wasting a shred of time, he dashes for the master without a moment's notice and clashes with the blade of his foe, eyes glowing green and strength flowing from seemingly nowhere. The strike is so heavy it knocks the master back, forcing him to use something of an ultimate ability just to stay afloat. Throwing a wide arc slash at Dex and launching a blade of glowing red energy, it seems things may be over. But no, of course not. That would be too easy. Dex had raised his blades just barely in time enough to block the strike, using the same kind of technique just pulled off by a newly nominated swordmaster. That should be impossible no matter how you look at it. But that's the thing. Should be doesn't mean is. Not for him anyway. I'd like to see his face if Dex's other exploits are revealed, huh? The system warns that Dex has used a level 150 skill called Aura Blade in order to block the strike, so it would take additional plausibility on the Angel's side. He'd really have to end things this time before the cost got too high. Using everything in tandem, Dex rushes the Count and chooses violence to solve the problem, ruthlessly battering away at his sword to break the old man's guard. He does manage to disarm him, and this causes the fight to end. The Divine Descent skill ceases, and for a time, all is quiet once more. A bunch of notifications later, most of which aren't important, and he's consumed 2,800 of that precious finite resource he has so little of. The reason is that last time he didn't use much power, only taking one swing to flatten the orcs in his way. But here, he's had to exhaust a lot more. But no complaints because it was a fair deal, right?